कर दिया मैसेज व्हाट्सएप पे। ठीक है ठीक है। Yes, Vagan.
Okay, fine. So hopefully I'm audible. So so far you have learned NumPy as well as pandas. So now practically we will see how these things will be kind of helpful when we try to solve some problem. So what we are going to do now, let me just showcase one interesting data set. The name of the data set, the problem which we are going to consider is Titanic data set. So it's not related to Titanic movie, of course. Movie is extremely famous, but here first we'll consider the Titanic data set, and this data set is freely available on Kaggle. Okay. So let me just go to this particular site, and I'm also sharing the link of this particular data set in the chat box, so that in case if you are interested, you can go ahead and download it. Of course, you will be needing to create one kind of Kaggle account. So, and it's a very interesting problem which we are going to solve towards the kind of particular session. That all of us know what happened with Titanic. So what we are going to do after learning right, pretty much kind of all the key functionalities with respect to our pandas and numpys and also Python programming, we will try to kind of build one model which will give us prediction what will happen. Let's say Titanic is right now, let's say, available, and what will happen to its passengers if similar kind of situation arise. So that means what we are trying to predict, to be precisely, let's say, let's keep all the passenger names and their age and all other kind of characteristics as it is, and now we'll try to design one machine learning model which will kind of predict with utmost accuracy whether the underlying person will survive or not, right? So it's a very complex problem, as you can imagine, because we are going to give this kind of prediction of survival of passengers of nothing but Titanic. That's the whole idea. So as you can see, the data set is available in .csv file, so you can just download it, right? So you will get this particular option. So let me just try to show that particular option of download, right? So if you click over here, then either you can download it in terms of zip, that is fine, and then later on you can unzip it and get the corresponding file which is required for kind of our as you can see, Titanic data set, right? So this will be the file which we are going to use in this particular session. And let me, okay, so it's better that I give all the insights with respect to our kind of notebook framework rather than going into CSV file. So let's start this. So as you can see, so there are three different kind of, one can say, focus areas of this particular topic. Just a second. So can you mute there, and maybe I can turn it on from this device.
Second. I hope it's audible. You can just turn it down the volume. Yeah. Okay, fine. Okay, fine. So there are three different focus areas over here. The first one is it's utmost importance, right? Many of the times we don't appreciate this, but it's very much important. It's data visualization, right? That's the primary focus, and you already know that pandas, how we can use pandas for data visualization. The second and again crucial aspect is how we can go for data cleaning modules, right? And data cleaning will be extremely important, because without data cleaning, we won't be able to kind of apply any kind of machine learning model, right? So that will be the second important phase. And the third and the most important one is actual model, which we are going to deploy towards the end, right? So we will start with kind of number of observations, and some of these observations are very much aligned with the Titanic movie itself. And I feel that all of us have watched that particular movie, right, at least once, right? So we'll be able to relate very easily. Okay. So as you can see, the goal is first we will understand demographics of our passenger, right? Age, gender, class, right? All those things. Second is again origins, from where the passengers were coming. There were three different stations from where they actually boarded the ship. So those things. Identification of passengers traveling alone with or with family, and then finally the most important one is we'll also try to identify the influencing survival factors, right, at the time of sinking. So all these things we'll do first. Okay, so let me just showcase what all things I have imported. So let me just reconnect this. So I'm glad that you already know about these things, right? Pandas, numpys, and also what is data frame, what is series, right? So if you want to recall, then very briefly, consider any table. In that particular table, right? If you have this kind of, maybe I can quickly draw over here, that if you consider any kind of table, then in that particular table, if you go for kind of column, then each column is kind of consistent, and it will represent nothing but one should say our normal. Okay, just a second. It's better that I draw it if possible. Okay, maybe. Okay, so this is, I have to rotate like this, then it will appear properly. Okay, so what I'm referring to, that whenever we have this kind of data in terms of table, then what we will say, this entire thing, right, is called nothing but our data frame. If we just look at into data, which is kind of Excel, but if you refer to a particular kind of column, then this particular column is nothing but our series, because each and every kind of element of this particular column that follows a particular type of data, right? So data type will be consistent with respect to this particular kind of column. So therefore, it refers to series. Whereas if you look at into the entire kind of table, then it's nothing but it's our data frame, right? So that's the core idea. And now, of course, we haven't talked about this matplotlib as well as Seaborn, but we will see, right, what are their functionalities. So this is nothing but we are just importing, right, nothing else in the first part. In the second part, as you can see, there is no file titan.train. So I have to upload this, right? So I am uploading, and of course, you know how to download this. So I will go to that particular zip folder. I have unzipped it, and I will just attach it over here, so that I can get insights about this particular data. So now if I run this, then with the help of again pandas, as you can see, pd.read_csv, I'll be able to read the content of this particular file, right? And now the most interesting thing will be, let's look at into the data set. So what I have done, I have just as you can see, I have just executed the very first kind of so in what I recommend, you use Google Colab for this particular purpose, so that you can save time with respect to installation and all. You can just import straight away and start. And soon after a couple of maybe cells, I will also share the link of this particular notebook with you, so that you can also try this. But for now, I wanted to focus, so therefore I haven't shared it yet. So as you can see, a lot of things are there. First is passenger ID. That is obvious, that 1, 2, 3, 4. It just tells us, and if you want, we can also expand this, right? So maybe we can just go to this particular mode, or maybe I can just showcase more entries, so that you can kind of see it fully. But for now, it's head, so therefore we will be able to see only 5 entries, of course. But in normal case, you can of course play with the data if you are not using head, and if you just print that particular data frame, then you will be able to kind of play with the data using this kind of filters, right? And then accordingly you will get data. So now as you can see, let's try to understand different aspects of this particular data. Passenger ID is nothing but a number of passengers in some sense, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is just to distinguish passengers, nothing else. The most important column for us is whether that particular person has survived or not. So survived one means that particular person was alive even after the sinking of the ship. Zero means he or she couldn't survive. And then there were three different classes in that particular ship. So for now, we can see only 1 and 3, but if we see the entire data, then you will see that class number 2 was also there. Of course, first class, second class, and third class, right? So those three were the classes. And then male or female, of course, that details is there along with age. And then there is one more parameter, that's sibling spouse, right? So if not necessarily every time a person is going to travel alone, right? So if he or she is with spouse, then this particular count will be 1. Or maybe brother or sister of that particular person is also traveling together, then this particular count will be non-zero, right? So that's the idea of sibling spouse. And then ticket number, and then of course fare, and then we also have details about whether that particular person stayed in cabin or not, and embarked is corresponding to kind of boarding station, right? From which station or from which city that particular passenger kind of boarded the ship, right? So that's so this is roughly the main idea, I should say, main features of this particular data set, right? And if I call this particular info function, then I will get to know interesting details about this, that whether this particular data set is complete or not. So can you observe something? You can just write it in the comment box. What are the issues with this particular data? Let's say our overall focus is to build a nice model with the help of machine learning with respect to this data, but I cannot proceed the way the data is given over here, right? So if you notice carefully, the issues present over here, then uh, okay, of course, first observation is all are not numerical, right? So can you, okay, second observation, age values are missing. Absolutely correct. Only 714 values are present with respect to age. So there are roughly, right, I should say 180, right? 180 minus 4 minus 3, whatever, 177 number of people whose data we don't have, right? So age data we don't have. Any other issues which you can see? And first observation is extremely correct. All are not numerical. So we also have to do something with respect to that, right? Very nice observation, Dr. Bhavna. We can ignore the name, right? Name column. Eventually, we don't require, because whether you will survive or not, that does not depend upon your name, right? So we can just drop it. It won't be of use in the future for sure. Very good observation. And the second observation, I guess it's from, I'm not able to read the name properly, but that observation is also correct. Age values are missing. Apart from that, any other observation? All other things are going to 891. Can you observe something else? There are some other issues also apart from this too. Maybe I can zoom this so that you can focus more. Okay, cabin. That very nice observation. Cabin value is also available only for 204 passengers, not for all, right? So this data is not complete. So there are two options. Whenever this kind of scenario comes, now you will appreciate why data cleaning is important. In very soon, we need to do, we have to kind of make some kind of actions. For example, there are two options. Either we can drop that entire attribute, or the second option is we can fill those null values with something sensible. So we will do both of this so that you can appreciate the power of data cleaning and later on machine learning, right? So for example, with respect to name is irrelevant, so we can drop it fully. But what about age value, right? And before making any decision with respect to this age parameter, you should think logically whether age will make any impact on survival or not. So if you know about Titanic, then if you can recall, then in the case of life boards, priority was given or preference was given to children. So that means if your age is extremely less, then it's very likely that you will survive this particular disaster, right? So therefore, age is important parameter. We cannot kind of ignore it, right? And maybe there kind of some kind of correlation with, let's say, if someone is extremely old, then he or she will survive. We don't know, right? But therefore, we can't ignore this particular parameter. It's extremely important. So that means what we need to do is for the remaining values, we have to fill, we have to identify what we need to do with respect to all the values which are missing with respect to this particular age parameter, right? So that we have to think, of course. Now, if you think with respect to cabin, then the scenario may be different, right? It does not matter whether you have got cabin or not, or maybe it may create some kind of difference. But the issue is a lot of missing values. If you compare, if you add these two numbers, right, 714 and 204, so roughly they are complement of total numbers, right? So that means whatever values which are missing in age, only those many values are kind of present in cabin. That means missing values are too much, right? So it's very much difficult. It will be very much difficult for us to kind of fill those values, right? So let's see what we will do with respect to that. Right? A lot of insights just from this info, right? So therefore, info function is extremely important, right? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some kind of heat map just to kind of showcase you nothing but what all missing values we have in this particular kind of nothing but in this particular case our data. Right? So what we are going to do. Okay, and I will answer. There are some questions. I will answer them afterwards because first I would like to focus on the core aspect of this particular talk. So first, as you can see, which function I'm calling over here, Titanic underscore DF. This is nothing but my data frame. If you have noticed, right? We have started with this Titanic underscore DF. This is my data frame. So I am calling this particular function not is null, whether it's null or not, right? So if it is not null, then we are going to kind of color it with color this, right? So which is nothing but yellow, right? And why tick labels is equal to false. Why I have done this? Because on y-axis, whatever I get, I am not interested in. So before understanding the syntax one more time, let me just showcase you the outcome. So you can see the outcome first. That all of these are nothing but my column values, and what I'm getting over here is nothing but, as you can see, just for cabin, lot of yellow color is appearing. That means lot of cabin values are missing. For age, again, I am getting a lot of kind of yellow values. So that means for a lot of passengers, we don't know the age value. But still, this number with respect to age is significantly less as compared to cabin. And there are a couple of yellow lines for embarked parameter also. That means for a couple of passengers, we don't know from where they have kind of bought it, right? So these are the kind of limitations as of now we have. Now, you can imagine what this particular thing does, right? So if I convert this, right? So if I go back and let me call this true, then what will happen? Can you imagine? Instead of false, if I write true, let me just write true and I will remove this, then what will happen? I will get some kind of labels on y-axis, but I don't need it actually because y-axis is corresponding to passenger 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And it will look clumsy, right? So let's see what it gives. But for our use case, as you can see, right, too many labels will come on y-axis, so therefore I kept it intentionally false. Okay, and you can also notice the change if I convert this into true. Okay, let me just put it true, and then you will be able to notice the changes. Right? So now, as you can see, I get some kind of bar corresponding to whatever values I have, right? So if it is fully kind of missing, then it will be extremely yellow, and that is true for all my cases. So therefore, it doesn't make much sense to have this kind of bar. So therefore, I have kept it false. And this last one is just for that particular yellow color, right? So that's how it works. So hopefully you understand how this works, and more for you, the more focus must be given to what we are doing, not how we are doing, right? Because in generative AI, you can easily get the syntax and learn how it works. But why we are doing all these things, that will be more impactful and useful for you. Okay. One more important function, describe. Describe will give us all this kind of mathematical details with respect to whatever parameters we have. For example, in total, we have 891 passenger details. And what is the this passenger ID? All these details doesn't make much sense. But for us, the age parameter is more sensible, right? For age, we got 29.69 as nothing but our kind of average age. And other important one is fare. From fare, we can kind of get insights that what is the average fare of this particular ship for right. And again, it will be summation of all kind of fares, not just first class or third class fare, and divided by whatever total number of tickets sold, right? So that's how we got this number, right? And then we got minimum value 25, 20, 50%, 75 maximum value. That, for example, age will be interesting, that the maximum value is 80 in terms of age, and minimum is zero point 0.4. So that means around some I should say 5 month old child was also there on the ship, right? So those kind of things we can say just by looking at this particular kind of describe function, right? So hopefully it makes sense. Okay. Now, let's talk about some important, I should say, representations. So, along with what we say, that kind of describing what we are doing, I'm also kind of trying to capture some important plots from our library SNS, right? So you can see that we have imported two different libraries for plotting. The SNS or Seaborn, right? That is again for visualization, and the first one matplotlib, that is also for visualization. So whenever I refer SNS, that means you have to kind of assume that it's about seaborn, and similarly PLT is for matplotlib. So now let's see how it looks with respect to kind of what is the correlation between first, it's not about correlation, it's just about knowing the frequency, that how many people survived and how many couldn't, right? So what I'm going to do for that, that I have one particular attribute which is called survived, and the data is available in this particular Titanic underscore DF. That is my data frame. That these two things I am passing, and the plot which I am going to plot is count plot, right? So with count plot, survived attribute has only two values, 0 and 1, and then I will just plot this. So as you can see, now we got this particular kind of nice count plot, and it's very easy to kind of get insights about the data from this particular visualization. We can, by just by looking at it, we can see that number of survived people were significantly less as compared to number of people who couldn't survive, unfortunately. So as you can see, the number is around 325 around for survived people, whereas around 550 people could not survive, right? So those kind of things we can easily say from this, right? So mean value indicates that approximately 38% of the individuals and data set survived the sinking, and that representation is that kind of very much clear from this. Fine. The next one is let's see the distribution with respect to sex. How many male passengers were there versus how many female? And this distribution is also kind of identical, right? As you can see, if you compare this with this, then roughly it's of similar nature. That we can see that roughly 40% of the population, right, 40% of people were female, and remaining 60% were male, right? So that insight we got. The next insight will be more kind of interesting. As you can see, now we are talking about again count plot, but in some layered way. So what we are going to do, we will mix up both the things. First, we have talked about how many survived. Then we have talked about how. So first was about distribution of people in terms of whether they survived or not. Second was about distribution of people based on sex, and third is about mixture of both, right? So out of all men, how many survived? And out of all female, how many survived? And just to compare this kind of whether the kind of survival depends upon kind of your sex or not, right? So that's what we're trying to figure it out just by looking at this visualization. Again, this is not one can say we are not applying any kind of model yet. This is just one representation, visualization technique. But just by looking at it, you will be able to kind of get some nice insights. So if you look at into this closely, then you can see that roughly 450 male passenger could not survive, and only 100 male passenger could survive. But if you compare this with female, then number of female who survived were around 225, and number of female who couldn't survive was around 90 only, right? So that means If you are female, then it's very likely that you will survive, right? And that makes sense also because, and again, if you recall, then at the time of lifeboats, the preference were given to children as well as female, right? So therefore, number of survivals with respect to female is greater than number of survivals male, right? So that insight we got from here. And only change which we do with respect to the kind of syntax is we have introduced this kind of subcategory, and subcategory is listed by u parameter. So we know that how to get count plot. We just need to pass one kind of attribute which has just 0, 1 value, in this particular case survived. And now we want one more bifurcation in that. We want additional details that among all survived or couldn't survive, what's the distribution in terms of male and female. So therefore, we kind of pass this particular u argument also, and in u, I have just given value of sex, right? And then you can see this kind of nice distribution where we get this additional insight that females were kind of more likelihood of female survival is more as compared to male survival, right? So that makes sense also, right? Now, if we go ahead, then let's try to get, so all of these are nice, interesting use cases of data visualizations, right? So let me try to showcase this in terms of slides. So slideshow so that you can focus more. So the next one is, so we have seen all of this, right? So this, right? Survived, not survived, right? So maybe if I zoom this further, then you will be able to see this. Okay, so this much is fine, I guess, right? Survived or not, that was the first one. Then male versus female, second one. And then we club both of this, right? Uh, how many males survived, how many females survived and didn't survive, both the things. And now one more interesting thing. How many people were traveling in first class versus second class versus third class? So as you can see, again, the plot is same count plot. We are passing different argument or attribute this time. P class. P class is corresponding to in which class you are traveling, right? First class, second class, third class. Just the way we have classes in our railways. So as you can see, many people were traveling in third class, roughly around 450, right? And first class and second class, roughly same, 200, right? Around 200. Now, let's see what was the impact of this P class on survival, right? So again, we can draw similar kind of diagram in which, as you can see, U is P class now, and X is again survived. So as you can see, now we got one nice distribution using which you can get insights that among survivors, what was the impact of class? That if you are traveling first class, then it's very likely that you will survive. And this makes this is data driven, as you can see. Out of first class people, only around 75 couldn't survive, whereas roughly around more than, I should say, 130 could survive. Whereas this value is greater than number of survivals from the third class. How many people were traveling in third class? More than 375 and survived only around 120. Whereas first class, more number of people survived, right? And this one is kind of very much balanced. The middle class, second class, roughly around 90, 90 I should say, couldn't survive, and survived were around 80 or something, right? So this is one more nice indication that whatever model we are going to kind of design, that model must give weightage to P class also, because that will also decide whether you will survive or not, right? So that's how it works. Okay, so as expected, it appears that lower class passengers had a lower likelihood of survival, right? So that makes sense. Now let's go ahead. How this time it's not just about what do you say survival with respect to P class. Now let's also try to understand the distribution of sex with respect to different classes, right? So again, on x-axis we are having nothing but sex, but on y-axis, or I should say on subdivision, we are doing the subdivision based on P class, right? So with respect to distribution of male and female, how they were distributed with respect to in this particular case, nothing but P class. Okay, so what we are going to do, let's try to understand this. So as you can see, in this particular case, what is happening, as you can see, males were more in the third class, roughly around 350, right? And females were, of course, more in third class. But again, the difference is quite more in terms of male, right? So as you can see, roughly if I combine first plus second, though still I will not reach to this 350 number. But whereas that gap is significantly less in the case of females. So in some sense, females were more kind of symmetrically distributed, whereas in the case of male, the distribution is not kind of symmetric. Right? So that insight we got from over here. Right? So, considering that third class had a high proportion of men compared to women, it is worth noting the famous protocol, which we already know, women and children first, right? And that was used at the time of allocating lifeboat. Okay, fine. Now let's go ahead. Now let's come to the main aspect of our discussion, because we know that there are some issues with age. We don't know kind of what do you say, exact details about age. Okay, there are some questions, but of course I will answer them towards the end of the session, because I would like to cover a lot first. So now, what is our focus? We don't know age of all the kind of passengers, right? And we know some in some sense what is the average age. But now there is a question: can we just put average age across all the classes, or should we consider minute details, that what is the average class age, right? For example, what is the average class age of first class? What is the average age of passengers who are traveling in second class? And what is the average age of passengers who are traveling in third class? Because if you look at into this data, then you know that number of people who are traveling these classes are changing rapidly, right? It's not like that every all of these classes are kind of equally filled. And it's intuitive that people who will be traveling in first class, they will be kind of slightly elder as compared to others, because this was quite expensive, the first class tickets were. So if someone is able to kind of afford this first class, that means he has kind of generated or kind of nice amount of wealth, right? And usually that requires some amount of time, right? So that means it will be a better choice if we kind of if we can identify average value of age class by class, not just overall average, right? Hopefully you understand what I'm trying to say. And then if some values, if let's say some passenger K is traveling in first class, and some passenger K1 is traveling in third class, then the average value must not be 29 for both of them, right? I should find out average value for K with respect to first class, right? All the people who are traveling first class, what is the average value from the known values? And then I can substitute that particular value as for passenger K, versus for K dash, I should consider average value, average known value of third class passengers. Hopefully you understand what I'm trying to say, right? Okay. So before doing all that, let's try to just understand what is the age distribution, just to understand the kind of one should say age distribution of passengers of Titanic. So as you can see, for now I am having base is equal to 80. So base are corresponding to nothing but interval. So if I am having interval length 1, so that means this is just give me kind of frequency count. So as you can see, the highest value I am getting at around I should say it's around 24. So around 32 or 33 people are having age 24. And there is one person, as we have noticed earlier, that there is someone who is of age 80. And then there are kind of few people with age around 70. And then majority of people are in this particular range, right? So as you can see, more than 20, we are getting from this values like roughly around 15 to 35, right? So most of the people are having this particular values age between 15 to 35. We can say this just by looking at this particular histogram. And now if you want even better insights, then we can just change the bins. If I put small bins, then interval value will be increased. So now each kind of minimal the bar width is corresponding to nothing but it's corresponding to interval length 2, not interval length 1 now, right? So for example, how many people are having age between 0 to 2? That is around 24, right? So that's how it works, right? Okay, so let's go ahead. So now again, we do different kind of plotting, cat plot. In previous two also I have used kite plot. So here, what is our focus? We will try to understand if someone is traveling with his or her wife or maybe siblings or cousins, then what are the chances that he will survive more as compared to others, right? So what's the dependency of whether you are traveling alone or whether you are traveling with your spouse or whether you have kind of sibling on the board on the survival of the underlying person, right? So as you can see, if you notice carefully, then the first one that is corresponding to zero, right? So roughly, right, we can't see any kind of correlation there. But if you go ahead, then here we can see that roughly same number of people. If you have one kind of as a SIB SP value, SIB spouse value one, then we can see roughly equal number of people are kind of survived as well as couldn't survive, right? So those some insights we get with respect to that. And if you have more kind of SIBs SP, so if you have entire family, then it's very unlikely that entire family kind of survived, right? So you can see that that is this particular darker values are come appearing on zero side, not on one side. So that means it's not necessary that if you are traveling together, then you will be kind of saved by lifeboats, at least in the case of Titanic. Okay. Fine. Now, the next thing is we also have this particular information from the boarding station. So there were three different boarding stations, right? So we are going to represent them by C, Q, and S. So we have just taken the initial letter of this three kind of cities, right? So Q stands for Queenstown, right? And S stands for Southampton, right? So on and so forth. So now, again, what is the impact of that with respect to class distribution, right? So again, similar kind of plot. U is P class, so we are just trying to understand which kind of people came from which city, right? So this will also kind of give us some socio-economic background of those cities, right? What was the situation economically with respect to these three cities? If we see this particular diagram, can you tell me which city was the most prosperous just by guessing, but just by looking at this particular graph out of this three, S, C, and Q, which one is best with to financial aspects, and which one is worst? Just by looking at which type of passengers, right? So Q seems the worst one because it has most of the passengers from third class, right? So Q is right, not a lot, and but not necessary, right? Of course, we this intuitive, but it may be the case that because ship is starting from S itself, so therefore most of the thing kind of seats were filled. But still, it gives some kind of indication that Q is not up to the mark with respect to financial aspects as compared to S and C, for sure. Okay. So the majority of passengers, including the main characters of the movie, Jack and Rose, they boarded the ship from city S. Okay, and interestingly, there were very few first or second class passengers from Q. Right. So this observation provides insights of socio-economical status, which I already told you. Okay, fine. So this was so far we didn't do any kind of manipulation with respect to our data. We just got a lot of insights about our data, that we understood that a lot of things are missing with respect to our data, and primarily just by looking at this heat map, we understood that we have to do many kind of changes. We have to kill this yellow lines so that our data looks clean, and then we can kind of go ahead with our kind of model. But before that, we have to kind of clean our data, right? So of course, we understood that how this different parameters are impacting the outcome of our model, right? Was a possible outcome of our model, that whether the passenger will survive or not. So we understood the importance of each and every attribute, but some of the attributes we didn't cover. So of course we have to drop them, and of course we have to kind of fill this missing values. Either we have to fill this missing values, or we can just ignore the entire column, right? So we have to take those kind of decisions. So those things we will do now, right? So now we are starting the second phase, where we will kind of clean the data. So far we have just seen that what data we have, right? So I guess it's a good time that now I kind of share this particular notebook with you, so that you can also kind of get insights from it, and you can play with the functions and whatever you would like to do with this. Okay, so let me just, okay, so wrong key, sorry for this. I have to press for create a copy, save a copy in the drive. So then one more copy will be created and I will share that particular copy with you so that you can also kind of run this simultaneously. Right? So hopefully you understand. So far we just focused on data visualization. We didn't do much with respect to modification of our data frame. Whatever data was provided to us by Kaggle, we are just using that particular data. And why I am starting with this? Because this will motivate you to work in the field of data analysis or data science or machine learning. Right? For example, if you go in this particular Kaggle data set, and if you look at into the code section, then you will see a lot of submissions are there, right? With respect to a kind of, one should say, which kind of models people are applying on this particular data set. You can just go to this code section and you can see 563 different types of models people have kind of applied on this particular data set, right? So therefore, you can see, right? So you have this is a very nice use case of one should say about EDA, and also this is kind of beginning of machine learning, right? And if you look at into this in detail, then you will soon see some kind of meaningful name. Like for example, you can see logistic regression over here. You will also find out that decision tree, or all of these are nothing but machine learning models. So you can see that KNN, right? So people have applied a lot of models, machine learning models on this particular data set just to solve this problem which I have mentioned to you. Okay. Meanwhile, let me just try to share this particular link with you of the notebook. So you can just copy this particular notebook. Again, I request you to copy it first so that you can modify it. So let me share my screen one more time. Okay, so you can go through this afterwards and get insights about what other types of models people have applied if you are interested. You can see feature engineering, ML pipeline, end-to-end classification, so on and so forth. Anyways, let's continue our discussion. So now we know that we have to do some kind of changes, but we haven't done it. So we have to clean our data. So let's try to understand how to do it and how to do it nicely so that our model becomes more intelligent, right, in some sense. So let me start from here. So again, one more time, we are just referring to nothing but uh, average age. So average age is 29.69, right, of all the passengers of Titanic data set, right? Uh, and we are again referring to whatever data which is available to us. Now, this is interesting. As I had highlighted earlier, you can see the average is not 29 across all the classes. In the first class, average is 38. So, and the reason is same, like I mentioned earlier, that the ticket is extremely kind of, one can say, costly. Then, so that means you have to be kind of slightly elder in order to kind of obtain those amount of wealth, one can say. Middle class, the second class is roughly the same, right? Whatever average we got, that same average is aligned with this particular class. And slightly younger people are coming in third class because third class was the cheapest. So kind of anyone could afford it, right? So that's why it makes sense. Now, what we need to do, we have to first fill those missing yellow entries, right? And how I got this already, Tyagi sir have explained you, right? The idea of group by. So we have applied the same group by functionality over here, but we are grouping by P passenger class, and we are doing this analysis based on age. So what is the mean value of age? And we got this particular answer. Now, what we need to do is, and this also showcased that in third class, we also have kind of more children and fewer older individuals. Therefore, the value is towards lower side. So that is also one more way of, or one more insights one can get from that particular 25 value. But now our overall objective is to fill those missing values. So instead of filling it just by 29, what I have done, I have created this particular function, and how this particular function will work. It will first look for whether the underlying value is null or not, and then it will check for passenger class. So for example, if this particular age value is null and passenger class is 1, then we will fill it with average value of for passenger class 1, which is 38. And if that particular null value is coming for passenger who is traveling class 2, then we will substitute 29 instead of that particular null. And otherwise, so third case is nothing but the person is coming from third class, so then we will just substitute 25. So this is nothing but mainly to ensure that we fill all the missing values with appropriate number. We are not taking average of all, but we are taking average class wise. So that's how it works, right? So, and if null is not there, then we don't need to do anything, right? So, if, in all other cases, we don't need to do modify any values, right? So, this is the core functionality of this function. And then we will call this particular function for our original age, right? So, as you can see, first, I'm just passing this two columns because they only these two one should say are relevant. These two columns are relevant to my work. So from data frame, I'm passing this age and p class, and then I'm calling this apply method. And in apply, I'm just applying this on m underscore age because modification will be done on this a new column m underscore age, and it will be on axis 1 because I'm referring to a column, so therefore I have to write axis 1. If I'm doing some changes row wise, then I have to write axis is equal to 0. And then what I'm going to do is I'm modifying this particular age column, as you can see. So now this is the modified version of age, and modified version of age is nothing but it based on previous version of age as well as p class, and after applying this particular method, right? And as you can see, this is my method which I have created, m underscore age. This is the name of the method, and it takes only one argument, which is nothing but age in this particular case. So as you can see, I am applying m underscore age. As you can see, m underscore age is nothing but I'm telling it to call this particular method m underscore age, right? So m underscore age is sorry, I told wrongly. M underscore age is not actually a column; it's the name of the function which we are calling, right? So that's the correct way to see it. And then whatever changes we are going to do, that will be corresponding to column 1, right? So that is axis is equal to 1. And finally, we after doing this, so basically what we are doing, we are passing the two columns of our two relevant columns from our data frame, and then we are calling this particular function. And based on these two columns, because as you can see, function will use both the things, age as well as p class. And based on that, it will modify the values of age, and that will become my modified column, as you can see, right? So that's how it works. So basically, we have created this age function, modified age function, and then we are calling it for appropriate columns. That's what we are doing. And then the modified column, we are just pasting, right? So that's how it works. Right? So just by doing this, if I again copy paste the same heat map, then you will see surprisingly now there is no missing value for age, right? Because that means our function has done its work. But now still two things are pending, right? And you can guess it correctly. We have to do something with respect to cabin, and we also have to kind of get rid of this null values corresponding to M bar, right? So that those two things are pending. So let's do this. So for cabin, right, all of you can guess, right? So it's not possible to fill this many missing values. And it's again, we don't know the kind of in-depth knowledge of whether kind of distance from cabin to life saving boats were a significant factor for survival or not, right? We don't have those insights as of now, at least in this particular data set. So we can just drop it, right? So we can just remove this particular column. And apart from that, there are a couple of entries which are missing for embark, right? Couple of passengers, we don't have any information about embark. So we can just remove that, right? So these two changes we can do. So as you can see, this is nothing but drop. We are going to drop cabin, and cabin is column. So therefore we have to use axis is equal to 1 and in place is equal to 2. That means all the changes will be reflected in the same kind of data frame, right? So that's the purpose of in place. So now as you can see, after doing this, if we again kind of call the same heat map, then now only these two couple of missing entries are there, which are corresponding to impact, and everything else is kind of cleaned up, which is good. Now what we are going to do in the last step, we are going to drop all the or remove all the passengers whose embark values are missing. So I will just write drop NA, right? So as you can see, Titanic underscore DF, Titanic underscore DF dot drop NA. Wherever NA comes, we are going to drop those rows. That's what we are trying to say over here, right? So and then as you can see over here, right? So we are going to create dummies, right? So let me try to showcase this. Let me just zoom out and then talk about this dummies. So what we are trying to do over there, let me try to explain that. So if I go ahead and here with respect to data, if we go back and reread this, the original data, how it looks, then you will see couple of issues over here. So first issue is already highlighted by one of you, that name is not relevant. But apart from that, there are some other issues also. For example, if you look at into this embarked, then all other values are kind of in numeric, but embarked is kind of coming as S, C, S, and then there was one more town which was Q, or city which was Q. So that means this is in not kind of numeric format. That's the first issue. And one more issue is with respect to this one more parameter, which is sex. Sex is again, it's not 0 or 1, it's male, female. That's this English. So we have to kind of convert this, right? We have to convert this. So if I zoom this, then you will be able to see this. That sex is again male, female, it's not 0, 1. And if we go towards this side, then you will see that this even embarked is also not 0, 1, it's some other English alphabets. So we have to map this to some numeric values, and of course it's obvious that text we can just map it to 0, 1, right? So that change we have to do. And also with respect to embark, ideally we need 3 columns, right? If I write corresponding to Q, if I write 1, so that means I have bought it from city Q. If I write 1 for city C, so therefore I have bought it from city C. And if I write S corresponding to S, if I write 1, that means I have bought it from city S. But I cannot use the same kind of 1 for all of them. For example, then we will be confused, right? So it's good to have separate columns. So for example, if I have one separate column for S, then if value is 0, that means the passenger didn't embark this particular ship from station S. And if it is corresponding, so you can guess that from out of those 3 columns, one of them will have value 1. Exactly one of them will have value 1, and the rest of the 2 will be 0. But we have to make those changes explicitly, right? So now let's go ahead and let's see how we are going to modify our data set to ensure those changes, right? So far we have just removed all the kind of missing values. So that part is done up to this, right? Up to this cell, we have removed all the kind of missing values, and we have substituted the appropriate values for age. That much work has been done. Now, what we are doing over here with respect to embed, let's try to understand. So what I'm doing, I am calling this get underscore dummies function. And what it will do, it will just check how many different values Embark has. It has 3 different values, so it will create 3 different columns corresponding to each city. And then what I'm saying, drop first is equal to true. So that means only first column will be dropped and only 2 columns will be remain in my data set. And why this makes sense? Because if someone is not boarded from, let's say, city 1 and city 2, then of course he or she has boarded from city 3. So therefore, only 2 are sufficient, right? So for example, if I give you 3 options, that you have 3 different flavors of ice cream, let's say vanilla, strawberry, and chocolate, and you can buy just one. And if you are telling me that you are not buying the first 2, that means, of course, you are going to buy the third one, right? So similar logic is over here, that if 2 values are missing, then of course, third one is present. And if something is present in 1 and 2, then of course, the third value will be missing or 0. So therefore, we need only 2 columns, not 3. So therefore, top false is equal to true over here. Similarly, over here, with respect to sex also, if I call this get dummies function, it will create 2 different columns for male as well as female. But if male is equal to 1, then of course female is equal to 0. So I don't need 2 different columns. I can just say male is equal to 0 is nothing but female is equal to 1. So therefore, over here also, top underscore first is equal to true. So therefore, I am removing one more column from this. This is just to shrink the size of data set, and we are not compromising the meaning. Hopefully, you understand what I'm trying to say. This binary thing, male or female. So we don't need 2 columns. And get dummies, what it will do, it will just look at all the distinct kind of parameter values, and depending upon that, it will create kind of 2 different, in this particular case, 2 different columns. But drop first will just drop the first one because we don't need it. Okay, fine. So as you can see, finally, we are going to drop all the unnecessary columns, right? So let's see what all columns we have dropped. Okay. So as you can see, I'm dropping sex, embarked, name, and ticket. Because ticket number won't say anything about your survival, right? It doesn't, there is no correlation with ticket number and your survival, right? Uh, Although people believe, but it's not true. Fine. So now this has been removed, but as you can notice, I haven't added the new columns which I have prepared earlier. Like I have prepared this small embark and small sex, but I haven't included those kind of columns in my actual kind of data set. So what I need to do, dropping is fine, but I have to kind of include this numerical columns which I have generated, right? So that part I am doing now. That was missing. So that part we have to do now. So you can see the data for now. After dropping, everything is fine, but we don't have information about things like sex as well as embarked, right? So those things are missing. So what we are going to do, as you can see, I'm going to append or concate this missing kind of columns, sex as well as embark, and I'm going to add them as columns. So therefore, x is equal to 1. And now finally, our data cleaning part is complete. And as you can see, if I kind of see this, then you will be able to see the complete data now. That now no missing values with age. And usually, right, in the case of data frame, when you print it, it will just showcase you first five and last five, right? It won't show all the data. If you want to see all the data, then of course, maybe what, okay, let me just try to run this one more time. So let me just kind of restart the session and um, let it come to this particular point. Okay, so basically we have the data cleaning part is done, and now all we need to do is we are going to apply simplest form of machine learning model. The focus won't be on how we are going to kind of see this particular kind of model or how it works. So we are not going into the details of that, but basically we will see in some sense how easy to create kind of any machine learning model, and without much knowledge, that without in-depth knowledge, how we can get kind of very good accuracy also, right? So I will of course give you some brief idea about this particular model which we are going to apply and how it works. But our primary focus will be on, of course, the whole objective of this particular FTP is we are not just learning Python, we are also seeing the use cases of Python, and this will, I'm just trying to demonstrate the concrete use case, how Python knowledge is helpful to perform some tasks related to machine learning, right? So that's the motivation. So let me, and somehow that particular kind of, right? So let me just try to see whether if I can kind of convert this into interactive table, right? So now you will be able to see data properly, and I can also modify this, right? So as you can see, if I put so 100, then you will be able to see 100 rows in simultaneously, right? So it's not like that you cannot see the entire data, just you need to kind of go through, right, like this. Okay, it's just to give you some insights about the data, right? So it's complete. Fine. So now we have completed the data cleaning, and let's formally talk about logistic regression. So I will first give you the overall idea of this logistic regression, and then we will go through the code, how it looks and how it works. So okay, so let me just kind of again go to this slideshow. Okay, so we have talked about all of this. Now we are talking about logistic regression. Okay, so what is the idea of logistic regression? The purpose is we have a lot of data, right? We have data of around 890, I should say 889 different passengers, because we have also removed some passengers with embarked value missing. But what we are planning to predict over here, we are planning to predict whether a particular passenger will survive or not, right? So that is a 0-1 thing, right? So basically it's a binary classification. So whenever you want binary classification, you can go for logistic regression. That's the first thing, that you are going to give value either in terms of 0 or 1. And I'm not going into the too much details how the model works. Basically, we'll try to fit one S-shaped curve based on probability. And that's it. Means I'm not going into the detail how it works and how it differs from linear regression and all. But the key idea is your data may contain different types of attributes. It may contain continuous type of variables like age. It may contain discrete type of variables like from where you have kind of embarked this particular ship. So irrespective of your data is of the attributes or formally whatever, for example, for each passenger, we have this kind of details of his or her class, fare, sex, age, right? All of these are called attributes. So attributes can be continuous or they can be of distinct nature. And we want our final answer in terms of kind of 0, 1. Right? For example, we have rainfall data and whether flood will come or not. Those kind of prediction we would like to do. Then we can go for this logistic regression. And for any kind of machine learning or deep learning, basically what we are going to do, whatever data is given to us, we will split it into two parts. That first part is called training and the second part is called testing. Right? So, for example, whatever you teach to your students in your semester, like for example, you teach them for 6 months and you don't evaluate them mainly based on what you are teaching in the classroom. The what they how they perform in the end term examination, that's all matter. So that is called test accuracy. Similarly, with respect to model, we will help the model to learn by providing the data, right? So what we'll do, we'll split our data into 70-30 ratio. 70% data is just will be given to the model just for learning, to learn the patterns or to learn the association of different attributes on the final kind of outcome, whether the passenger will survive or not. But how good the model is, that will be decided based on how they are going to perform with respect to test data. Similarly, the way we evaluate students based on how good they will or bad they will perform with respect to final end term examination. And usually, right, as you can imagine, that the data which we or the questions which we ask in the test will be different from the questions which we give in the classroom. Similarly, over here, the data which we will give during the testing, that will be unseen by the model. It will need we won't give any kind of data during the training which we are going to provide during the testing. In other words, the data will be disjoint, right? Data points will be disjoint. No passenger data which we are going to give in testing will appear in the training data, right? So now with this much knowledge, we are ready to import the relevant things. The first part, as I have mentioned, we have to split the data. So therefore, we are importing the library is sklearn and we are importing this train underscore test split, that is for splitting. We are going to create this kind of model. So the name of the model is logistic regression. So therefore, we are including it. So, so this is like step by step we are going. Material we have divided into lecture material and exam material. Then we are going to conduct the test. The name of the test is logistic regression. In our case, it's end term examination. Then finally, we are going to provide them marks. So instead of marks or result, we are going to provide accuracy score over here and some kind of details, right? How badly you performed on some kind of questions. That details we are going to provide with the help of confusion matrix. So that's how it works. But first, it's a setup, then it's actual test or actual model, and then rest of the tools are for providing the result, right? So now, as you can see, we have to divide our kind of data into test as well as train. And you can see 30% data is provided for testing. That means 70% will be provided for training. And you can see this kind of pairs are there: X train, Y train, X test, Y test. So why this four things? Why not only two? Because ultimately we would like to give prediction. So training data or testing data, let's talk about X test. So X test will have all the details apart from the kind of whether the person has survived or not. So based on X test, the model will give its kind of prediction, and we have answer key with us that what is the actual answer, whether the particular passenger survived or not. And then based on that comparison, that what model is saying, what the actual answer is, and we give the result. For example, let's say we conduct the end-term examination in OMR sheet, and student give the answer. So that answer is nothing but prediction, and our actual answer is with us, right? And we map them, we compare them. That what is the actual answer, what student has given. So actual answer with answer key, which you have stored somewhere, right? Let's say one OMR sheet contains the actual answer. That is nothing but your Y test. So Y test contains the actual answer. X test is provided to the model, and model will give some prediction, and we will compare the answer of model with Y test to give the final result. And here similarly here X train and Y train is there, but here we are providing both of them while training, just to see the training accuracy, how good the model is learning during the training. So therefore we are providing both of them. but Y test won't be provided in the testing. We will see how. And as you can see in the testing split, of course, we have to drop this particular column, which is nothing but survived. Because if we give the answer, then model won't it will be kind of cheating in the testing, right? So therefore, we are kind of dropping it. Now, next, as you can see, how many iterations we are calling for this particular training. So it's a thousand iteration, and we are providing training data. So whenever we call this particular fit function, so then model is trained. It's like 6 months have been completed, and the student has learned everything, whatever you have provided. So that much work we are doing over here. That we have given the actual kind of attributes and actual answer for 70% of our data. So training has been done. And after training, this is the kind of actual time for test. So as you can see in the prediction, we are just providing X test. Why we are not giving Y test? Because Y test contains the actual answer. It's like in the exam, we can't give the final solution. Then everyone will score 100, right? So similarly over here, we are just providing X underscore test, not the other thing. And now this is the prediction. So this is kind of answers which are given by model, right? So as you can see, it's a very neat 0-1 thing because either the passenger will survive or he or she won't. So it's a binary thing and makes sense. And 30% of 889, whatever number that comes, right? Roughly around 260 or something. Those many values are over here. And now we will compare this with our actual answer. So as you can see, accuracy for in order to find, so it's like checking the answer sheet. Answer sheet is stored in prediction. Actual so prediction is nothing but answers of your students, sorry, and your answer sheet is Y underscore test, and you are just comparing these two, right? And then based on that, you will give the score, right? So as you can see, just by the simplest model, without any kind of fine tuning and modifying something, we are getting 82.39% of accuracy. That means out of 100 passengers, we are predicting survival of 82 passengers correctly, right? So it's a huge number in this simplest setup, right? Within the hour, we have developed this kind of model, and that too without much knowledge. So you can appreciate how powerful it is, right? And now let's come to the additional parameter, which is called confusion matrix. It's just to showcase how many times. Okay, so let me just give you again. It's based on the answer of your student, and that is nothing but prediction and actual answer key. We are just giving some additional remarks. Then those additional remarks are like this: that zero. You can see this is 0-1 vector. 149 times passengers couldn't survive, and your model predicted it correctly. And 71 times your passengers survived, and your model predicted correctly. But 14 and 33, these are the values which are kind of not good. These are off diagonal values, and they say that 14 times the correct answer was 0, but your model is giving 1. So that means 14 answers were wrong by the student. And this similarly 33 more answers were wrong by the student. In this particular case model, I should say that as you can see, the actual answer was 1. That passenger was actually survived. But you are saying it's not survived. 33 times this much happened. So that means you can imagine that if your model is good, then most of the data points will fall on the diagonal, not off the diagonal. So that's how it works. So hopefully you appreciate this exploratory data analysis. And this is kind of, one can say, hello world of machine learning. That's how we kind of start to learn machine learning. And now you also hopefully appreciate the power of data pre-processing and data visualization. So first we covered data visualization, then data cleaning. Without data cleaning, we can't give this kind of input to our model. And finally, we designed one nice model with simplest setup, which is giving us 82% of accuracy. So any questions? And of course, like some questions were there that so this is just one way of doing analysis, right? So as you can see over here, you can go through and there are 563 different notebooks are there. So it's not like that only this way is correct. But, since I assume that all of us are kind of beginners, so I'm just showcasing you the simplest possible way using which you can start. Of course, you can go ahead and kind of do in-depth analysis. You can apply some kind of feature engineering and some advanced models and get even better results than this. But this is a good starting point. That's what I wanted to say. And with respect to syntax, of course, it's very easy to, I have already shared this particular notebook with you. So you can just re-verify whether you are getting good understanding of this. And most of the syntax I've anyway explained, but you can of course go with alternative setups also. So it's up to you. So we'll take a break for 5 minutes and then we'll continue. Thank you.
इसको वो कर लो नया सेशन
ठीक है सर।
मेरा तो
नहीं, यहाँ से मैंने
I am audible. Now it is audible. Okay, so while it is clear, okay, fine. So, good evening to everyone. Now, in this session, I am going to talk about one of the GUI package, Tkinter, which are going to use to create the graphical user interface. Okay. So, in the previous discussion, we already talked about the various packages of the Python. Another important package which now I am going to discuss is about the Tkinter, which I am going to use to create the GUI modules, which is one of the fundamental module. Through that some kind of user interface we can create. So graphical user interface is basically we know, as you know, that it is going to become a software component which is used for communication between the computer and the user. So to interact with the user, we are going to use the GUI. So this user interface may use various kind of symbols or various kind of graphics such as icon, widget, that is various gadgets, and maybe some kind of visual indicator for doing the interaction with the computer. So through this user interface, we can use different kind of graphics to make interaction with the computer. So Python is one of the richest set of library. It is also contain many packages and libraries which are necessary to develop various kind of graphical user interface. So there are various widely used packages which are available in Python, such as Tkinter, Qt5, Page UI, Page Slide, and many more. If you can see here at the bottom of this slide, we have the WX Python 5 Qt, which is Qt5, PyForm, Stream Live, and also we have the Kiwi, Tkinter, PySide, PyGame, so many PySimple GUI. So many GUI libraries are available there. Mostly we are using Tkinter because it has the rich set of functionality. So among the various packages which are used to develop the GUI, widely used is the Tkinter modules, which have the wide range of application to be developed. So this library is available to develop user interface which have the distinct features and different use cases, and the choice that which of the library we are going to use to develop the GUI is basically depending on the requirement of our project or requirement of our forum. So as a developer, we are required to familiar with the various kind of GUI modules and try to decide based on the level of complexity and easiness of customization to decide that which of the library we are going to use to develop the user interface. So Tkinter is a Python interface which are going to interface TCL/TK GUI toolkit with the Python. So generally there are one of the toolkit is available, TCL/TK. With that
the Python has been integrated and going to provide a module through that we can develop a GUI. So the basic steps which we have to use to develop the GUI is, first we are required to import the library of the Tkinter module from that particular package. So we have to import the appropriate module which are necessary to create the various component of GUI. So whatever the main window we are creating, that is the main GUI, that will be initialized with the TK class. This TK class we have to use it, and that main GUI is known as the container. So this container will consist of various kind of widgets, or you can say various kind of gadgets, visual buttons, maybe some kind of click, maybe some kind of drop down menu. So various kind of different gadgets it may contain there. Once we have created the main window, then we are required to set sometimes the various properties and characteristic of that particular main GUI window, maybe the title, size, maybe background color, foreground color, and thereafter within this main, suppose we have created one of the main window, main frame, that will consist of various widgets, maybe some kind of button we have been used for click, maybe some kind of add, or we can make some kind of text box where you can give some of the value, maybe age, they can ask to enter some of the value. So various kind of widgets we can want to add to this particular main window, main container. And then we can use various kind of modules to make the geometry which we have created to be managed. For that purpose we are using the such as pack, grid, place kind of configuration modules which are going to be arranged these particular different modules at the different widgets within the window at appropriate location. Once we made all the widgets to be properly placed within this main window, if required, we should going to be attach some of the trigger event to be associated with the different widgets, so that whenever they are going to be performed any event, that widgets are going to respond as per the interaction from the user side. And thereafter at the last we are required to initiate the main loop. This is much more useful when we are going to create any of the GUI app using the Tkinter, where this main loop will going to be make your application to be in the ready state to run. In that case, this application are going to be keep on running infinitely into the loop and going to be execute and give the response against to various kind of event which are going to be performed, and the main window will remain open unless until that window are going to be closed by using the close click button. So this is the steps you have to follow whenever any GUI we wanted to create. So we have to import the Tkinter module and create the main GUI interface, main window, where we should add various kind of widgets, button, drop down menu, maybe some kind of click, some kind of text box, some kind of maybe some kind of drop down list. There we can want to ask user to enter some value, and then we can want to go into the main loop where we can keep on making these widgets to be take some various values and keep on responding according to the event which are associated with the various gadgets. So this you can say we have various, this is one of the windows which are created, but that window you can see does not contain, this is the one of the main window, and that window does not contain any widget, any gadget. Okay? This is the just empty gadget we have there, window is there, it does not contain any widget. So once GUI is going to be live, this is the first GUI interface which are coming there. At least this GUI must contain one of the widgets should be attached within this, associated with this particular window. So there should be at least one graphical window, and there should be more than one widget should be able to keep on adding. These widgets may be button, canvas, entry frame, label, list box, menu, text, that can be attached to this particular main window. But it is necessary that at least one root window should be there with every application. This means whenever we are going to create one of the GUI, there should be only one root window, main window need to be available, and over that we can create multiple different widgets or the frame. So this Tkinter widgets consist of various graphical gadgets. Through that we can able to get the data from the user and given to the computer. So this widgets is an element of GUI that is going to display the information or may going to provide us some specific way through which user can interact with the operating system, or you can say with the application, and these are going to be controlled through which we are trying to give various kind of input to the computer. So various controls can be such as label, maybe button, maybe entry, maybe some combo box, okay, check box, radio button, menu bar. So different kind of widgets we can able to use in our GUI application. So if you want to create this any widget, so in the GUI interface we have these kind of various widgets we can able to keep on our main window. Okay, so we are going to be look one by one how this GUI application can be developed, which consists of various widgets. So let us take this example. Okay. So we have to check whether first this Tkinter package is installed or not. So we are going to be make this to be import. We are going to be call this import, and you can know it is installed there or not. Okay. So we are required this Tkinter package to be import first. Okay, this need to be import, and thereafter we are required to be create one of the main window. How it will be created? Yeah, it will work on Google Colab. We just check it. So what we should do here is that once you check on the Google Colab, I have not exported this code. Okay. Now, so we have to import this Tkinter import, and then what we are trying to do, we are trying to connect this, and there we are trying to call the tk function. So we are creating one of the Tkinter module which are going to be associated with the tk library. So we are taking this tkinter.tk, or this can be also written as a top tk. So then we are going to be use, it means one of the main window we need to create. So main window will be created using the tkinter.tk. So this tk module we have to call, and then we have to make this to be executed by using the main loop. So whatever this main window we have been created, which are associated with the tk module, this main window are going to be initiated and going to be executed by using the .main loop. And then if you are going to execute this one, now you can see we are getting one window. This window which is coming, this window consists of no widgets on it. Okay, no widgets is contained there. Okay, and also does not have any label to this particular window. Okay. Now, if you want to make this window to be resize, it means its window size we want to change it. In that case, we can use the name of main window will be known by top. So top dot geometry. So through the geometry, the size, or you can say the width and height and various coordinate of this window are going to be changed. So we are making this to be maybe 400 to maybe say 250, and then we are going to be call again. Explore this one. Now you can see, observe the difference. The size of this window are going to be changed. So this is one of the window was created and whose size can be changed, geometry can be changed by using the geometry module. Here width, even though we can able to decide that where that window should be placed, taking from the top left to right way, that combination can be given there. Now in this case, now let us suppose we want to change, and in this window we want to add some of the widget. So for adding that some of the widget, let us check here. We are trying to add into this some of the button. Say. So other way of creating that one, we can able to use some alias name. So we are doing the import tkinter as tk. So this is the new alias name for the package tkinter we have been got. Now we are creating one of the main window. Okay. So this main window will be created as a tk. Tk is the name of package dot capital T and K. So one of the new window will be open, and for this window we want to keep the title. Okay. So whatever the previously we have been open here, we did not created any of the that need to be executed. Now we are getting this window. This window was generated, and in this window we want to make that title of this window need to be changed there. Okay. So for that purpose we are going to be make the title to be changed. So for that purpose we are writing the name of main window is the root dot title. So through the title module we can change the title of the main window. Root dot title, my first tkinter add. This is the name of title, and the size of that window we can change root dot geometry 300 to 200, that can be changed accordingly. So after that we also wanted to add some of the widgets, some of the gadget. So we are trying to add one of the label. For that what we are doing, we are going to add one of the button. Okay. So we can add a button. For that we are using the tk dot button. In this button we want to add to the main window. So main window is known by the root. So root, and in that button we wanted to keep the name of the button, so that we use the text click me. Okay. So the name of that button is the click me. As well as whatever the label we are going to give, other than the title of that main window, we are also giving some label using the tk dot label to the main root window, and their name we are giving the welcome to tkinter. It means whatever the title we are giving, along with that we are changing also the label, and thereafter we are going to be arrange that widget within the main window by using the some peg. So whatever this label we are giving, that labels are going to be placed at some place. So for that purpose we are using the peg. So label dot peg label dot paddy 10, which are going to be make this label to be attached into the root window, and they are going to be arranged within the window frame. And then we are going to be make that button to be also placed into the main our window by using the button dot pack. So label was attached associated with the main window, and button is also placed at the appropriate place. Okay? And then we are going to be start this main loop. Yes, by packing we are going to make that at which place they are going to be placed. So that pack is required to be used if you want to make it to be placed at a proper place. So that is required to be done for every widgets we are adding there. Now you can see this is the new. Okay? This is the new. Then observe this one. We got one of the same window. Now window has been given some title, some label, some title, that is my first Tkinter ad, that was made. And other than that, we have been attached one of the widget, that is the button having the name as a click. And to this particular we have been attached one of the label. It means whatever this click is given, there should be some label is given, that is welcome to Tkinter. Okay? So that way we have been used the label. It means label is another kind of widget gadget which we are adding, which is nothing but some kind of text is written on this particular main window. Okay? And wherever it is placed there, that place is here. Now suppose I am going to make this to be as a 20 in case. Let us check what we are going to get in here. Now you can see the difference, you can observe. Now there should be some space between the click and whatever this welcome to Tinker, there should be a space is there. Okay, it means through this pack we can able to keep on placing the label and the button at the appropriate place. So that way we can able to decide where it need to be placed there with respect to the other gadget. Okay, so that's how we did it. Now in this case, now other thing you can observe, when we executed this code, if I am going to make a if I am going to make this, after this click it is not responding, right? It will not going to work. There is a grid basically. It will divide into the multiple grid, and with respect to the left to right, bottom to top, there should be some grids are going to come. That grid are going to be decided that where they are going to be placed there. We will take other attribute with these methods, then we are going to discuss how this position can be taken into consideration. Okay? So let us attach to this some kind of event trigger which are going to be take place. So one event I am trying to add, that whenever we are going to make click, some message are going to be displayed. Okay, so for that purpose I am attaching one of the function. Here I am writing definition on button click. Okay, this is our generated function, how you want to associate some trigger on button click, and whenever the button I am going to click, I am writing that print button click. Okay, this event we want to generate, and then this on button click or need to be called this function whenever the button is going to be clicked. So this event are going to be associated with the button. So you have to come to the button gadget, and here we have been use the root. Button is attached to the main root, and text is the click me, and there we want to add another parameter comma and the command which we want to execute. So we have to use the command. With the command the event are going to be executed. So on button click, that is the functionality which we made here. Okay, and then we are going to execute this one. Now you can see we are getting this one clicking click. Observe here, what is happening? At the bottom you can see here outcome button click. Okay. Again you are clicking. Now button click, button click, button click. So this event we made is that whenever the button is clicked, something are going to be printed. So that output we are getting here as a button click. But this outcome, if you want to make to be displayed on the window itself, then you have to use appropriate functionality in the on click button. Okay, that will discuss one by one. Okay, it means that event can be associated with a different widget. Okay. Now let's check here another we are creating welcome program. So what we are taking? Import TTK. Instead of TK, I will take in TTK, and it can work as root TK. Always you have to create a root window as a root TK, and here we are going to add one of the frame within that main window. So how we are creating that one? To this root we want to create one of the frame. So TTK dot because this frame module is available into the TTK. It means TK enter. That I will import it as a alias name TTK. That is one option, or we can make a add import enter as TTK. That is also going to work. So now TTK dot frame root, with the root window we want to attach, and the padding we are going to give as a 40, the place which are going to be stored there. There you can use, but here see, it will be written as a root ttk.tk is perfectly work, but here I did this kind of import. Here you can see import star. In that case you will not get an error. But if I am not using the tkinter import store, in that case this is necessary to use either tkinter.tk or this ttk. So in this case I will not get an error. Now we are going to be attach some of the grid. Okay, attaching this to this form, whatever this frame we have created, this frame we are attaching some of the grid. Okay, dot grid, and thereafter we are adding some label, that is text label we are attaching to this form, where we are attaching not to the root, but we are attaching to the other frame which we are creating. So frame text welcome in Python FDP, and we are going to be attach this dot grid which are associated with the frame, and making this column to be from 0 and row. It means from the starting we are attaching that label. It means that text message to be start from the beginning, left side and the leftmost column and row they are going to associate. And we are attaching one of the widget button that we are adding to the frame, not to the root. So frame, we are using the quit, and we are adding the comment root.destroy. Root.destroy is one of the, and then dot grid column 1, column 2, column 0. Okay, then we are executing this root main. Now you can check. So here we have created one of the welcome to Python that we have been padded, where there should be some spaces there. You can see from the top. No, it is not necessary to use the pipe. Okay. Not necessary to use the pipe. This will be used in case we have the different multiple frames are there, to which of the frame we want to pack. In that case it is necessary, because same widgets need to be associated with the different frame. So there it is necessary to use the pipe to decide where they are going to be associated. So now you can see, because of this padding, it is coming to some of the from top, it is coming some in between. Now if I want to make this size to be, it is expandable. You can see it is here. Okay. This position is from something 40 from top to, from top it is coming to the 40 places down, unit down, and this is place where some grid we have been given here. What is the grid? These are going to be associated in the form where column 0 and row 1. So with respect to this one, first row and first column they need to become there, but button we wanted to make with respect to this one into the column and row 1. So in the same column it is there, same row it is there, but column should be, it will be little bit away from the welcome in Python FDP label. Okay, and if you are going to make this fit, they are going to be work there. So that's how this can be used there. Okay. Now let us take this example. Here we have been creating one of the say it is taken as a import tk enter as ttk. Main window we are creating ttk.tk. Now in this case we are not using the import star, so we are required to use that ttk, and we have been given one title to main window as a UI add, and adding one of the label. Label means one of the text we are adding there. So that is going to become ttk dot, with this ttk we are calling the label, and we are associating this label to the main window. So main underscore w. Label name we are giving as a FDP Python to that particular label title. Then we are making this grid label dot grid, so that its position of the label within the grid can be placed at appropriate place. Okay, so that we are required to put a 0 0, but now I have been commented that one. Now we are creating a button ttk dot button, which are associated on the main window. हाँ सर 8:30 नहीं कंफर्म बोला है मैं सर अभी 15 मिनट में फ्री होता हूँ, सेशन करवा सकता हूँ. Sorry, there is a discharge of my laptop. Now it is charging. So now you can see here we are getting the ttk button main window. With the main window button we are attaching the start text to that particular button, and then we want to give the position of this button where in the window they are going to be placed. So we have to use the dot grid. With the button we are placing that geometry position by using the dot grid. So button will be associated at some place using the dot grid, and grid should contain the various parameters. Okay, and then we are going to be call this main window. Let us check. We are getting one of those. See, this we are getting. How it is there? Here it is the FDP Python in the first column. Here it is starting, and start is here. Okay, and this window can go. You can see if you are going to make it. What happens? Window is enlarging, but your widgets will be remain at the same place. Okay, that is not taking movement. Okay, now this we want to make that our these widgets which are there, they are aligned with this particular notation. So wrong I have been spotted, not here. Okay. Here you can see. It is what happening in this case. Actual code FDP Python is coming at the above to the start, and I want to align this that FDP Python should be come in the same line where the start is coming. Geometry should be FDP Python, and then start button need to be come there. So for that purpose we are required to make this grid to be set, position to be set, position of the label widget within the grid layout need to be set. So for that purpose we are required to associate this grid parameter as a label dot grid, and in this grid we have to give the option. What we are giving? Label dot grid, row should be 0, column should be 0. Okay, so grid position of a label has been designed. Then the button is there. In the button we are going to be make the use of geometry manager and trying to add it in the frame at appropriate position. So for that we are using the button dot grid with the button dot grid row in the first row, and our grid is, our label is also in the first row. But this button should be start from the column 4, go to the column 4, whereas the grid should be label should be start at the column 0. So now they are going to be aligned in a single line compared to the previous outcome. If you want to see, now you can observe here what it is happening. Observe here, it is going to be see here. Is FDP Python start are aligned. So using the appropriate geometry manager, within that we have the grid option, where that we can make the position to be assigned. So grid is one of the way by which we can make this widget to be placed in the proper position. Okay. And also we can able to make this geometry manager to place at the appropriate place also using the dot pack option, so that we can also able to use it interchangeably wherever required. Okay, but remember that this label and the button two widgets are associated with the main window, so that main window we have to use here as a argument. Okay. Now let us come to add more functionality to this one. Okay, instead of that we are also trying to add some kind of functionality to that particular button. Now you can check here, it is here, we have the start. What happened here? Okay, button click, M&T, ERCT click, button. So once we are clicking, we are getting what? This Python start came, now I am clicking here, button click, this message are going to replace into the in place of label. So how that we can do, we can check here what we did here. We are associating to this button. Okay, whatever the buttons are there in the previous case with the button, we did not attach any of the functionality. Now here we are adding one of the functionality, command on click. This on click what we are adding, defining on click. This is our defined functionality. It is not a built-in method. What we are doing, we are using the with the label, because label we have been created. So this label will be known by label, LBL. The configuration of this label we want to change. What we are changing? Label.config. So configuration of this label was going to be changed. How? Now this configuration of label how changing? The change should be going to be take place. Text should be button click, M&T, ERCT click. That's what we are trying to change. So generally this config method can use to change the various property of the widget. So text are going to change to this one. Even though if you want to change the background, that can also be changed. Suppose we are going to write the bg equal to maybe assigned to maybe red. Red you can see here. It is red. Okay. So now with this button widgets we are going to be add on click. Okay. And this grid and we want to change also. See one thing what we did, the label we have been changed. Position of the label we have been changed by using the label dot grid 04. Okay, and the button we have been placed on the first row in the same row, whatever the row the grid has, but column we are replacing to the 4. Okay, and then we are going to be run this main window. Okay, and now we can check what we are going to be observed here. Now our output should be there should be one click where it is there. Okay, this is missing here, double quote. Now what we got? See, in the output, if we are getting FDP Python by default, and if you are going to be associate the event with the start button. This you can see. Background color was changed to red and the content of that label was also changed. And after click, what happened? The position is going to be also changed. That's why here if you observe, we made that this should be going to be position of that grid need to be going to be shift accordingly. Okay, it remain in the first row, but they are going to be shifted to the column. This is not a difficult thing, okay, because when I have been doing this code, it will take in, because hardly we have the 8 to 10 instructions are there. So that 8 to 10 commands we have to use there. Okay. And if you see, whenever you are going to add the button, it will be pretty simple. When we want to add the label, I have to use the dot label. If I have to add the grid, dot grid, button dot grid. So there should be, similarly, there should be 8 to 10 widgets are available there. Okay. So as per the requirement, we can able to know that one, and after doing the practices, we can know how to place and what are the different syntax of that particular widgets are there. Okay. So here just I am trying to show you that how this GUI can be used to create one of the interface. Okay, so one of the larger program I will take and show you that how the event can be added, how the widgets can be added, and depending on application, you can keep on using the different functionality which are available to this particular package. Okay, so just that we are trying to do it. Now one more things I want to show you. One thing that it was changed there. Now in this case I use it. Now if suppose I want to know, okay, what are the different keys which are available to any of this particular widgets which are available there. Let us check. We are talking about the grid, right? And we want to know what are the different configurations which are available associated with this particular grid, basically to this particular widget, that is the button. So what we can do, we can use the button btn, that is the button which was created, and associated with that button.config. Okay, button.config.keys. So whatever the different properties which are available related to the button for the configuration, that we can able to find out the list. Here you can see active background, active foreground, anchor, pad. Okay, so like that we can get all the different kind of configuration parameter attribute which we can set, which are associated with the button. Okay, out of these we can able to use it. This way you can know the more detail about this parameter. Okay, and if you want to know the label entry, that we can also do that one. Now let us take one more complex example. Okay, let us check this outcome, what is coming. Now here you can see we are creating one of the widget having the main window, and then we are creating one of the frame inside that main window. That frame is ttk.frame main w, and that we are placing at the first row, first column, and we are creating one of the entry. Okay. Entry means one of the data entry form we are going to create, entry widget, and that we are placing the same row and same column. And also we are adding one of the button, ttk.button, associating with the frames. Look here, we have the main window. Within this main window we are creating one of the frame. Okay, and that frame is associated with the main window. Okay, ttk.frame main window, adding the frame. Within that frame frm, we are adding the one of the entry widget which are placed in the same column, same row, and we are adding one of the button, and button have the label as a add, and command we are taking the add to list. This is, we haven't taken that way. And we are also adding one of the list box, okay, in that call. That is the tk dot list box, and that list box we are associating at the position using the grid instead of page, and making the row 1 first row and column 0. It means your button will be your entry will be in the first row first column, whereas the button will be, list box will be into the first row and the first column, okay. And then we are going to be exclude this one. You can check here. We are getting what? We are getting one of the entry. This is basically entry which are created here, okay. And one button we have created here, and this is basically known as the grid. One of the list box. This is the list box, and above one is the entry box, and this is the add button, okay. That you can check here. And in that, if you are going to be do something, see, it is adding, add, whatever, hello, add, text box is different, okay. That is going to be created. Now in this case you can see we are going to be keep on resizing this window. So what will happen, this particular entry and whatever the list box, they are not going to be resized, okay. That is not resized, okay. And with that we have been added one of the whatever the function we have been added. What we added? Add to list, okay. Add to the list. It is not adding to list, but it is add list. Event is none, okay. If you want, you can remove this event, not necessary. Now what we are doing? We are taking the entry dot get. Entry means what? The entry form which we made, entry, they have the entity as a entry. So whatever you are entering into this entry, they are going to be entry dot get that value which are entered into this box. And in case that contains some text, it is not empty, then what we are going to do? We are going to add this particular text where inside the list box. List box is known by txt.list. So we are going to be use here the txt_list dot insert. Insert we have with that one. Dot insert, where we are adding at the end, tk.in is going to become one of the attribute which you have to use. Insert the text if it has the text, and delete, okay. And that we are adding at the end, and what we are adding? Text, okay. And then we can to make this entry to be deleted. For that we are going to be do it entry.delete from the first position and tk.in, okay. That is one of the default constants which are taken here, okay. So now the same thing has been called into the add to list and the button with the button, fine. And now other you can see we are trying to add to form here, okay. One is that instead of that we are adding the main frame window has been added, and we are making the sticky, okay. Here it is moving, okay, left right it is moving there, whatever there. Now we are going to attach few things also there with this main window. We wanted to configure this. Okay. We are going to configure this one. Okay. For that, what we are doing, we are trying to make that our movement should be shifted to the go only the north, south, or east. So for that purpose, we have been making my grid. Whatever the frame we have been created, we are taking the configuration to be happen for the position, where we are making this to be sticky. Sticky means this will be moved to any direction. By default, it will go to the left, right, north, south, east, and west. So making to be moved everywhere. Okay, and then making this for column configuration to be 0 and weight to be 1. Okay. So that placing at the zeroth and column and giving some weight here. Similarly, we can able to make that where this row should be configured, and then we are going to be making this entry form should also to be sticky. Maybe go to the entry box to be grow toward the maybe east and west, and to this we are trying to bind to this entry box one of the event, that is we are going to use one of the entry as a return, that is the constant we have to use, and we are using one of this add underscore to event functionality as a lambda. Okay? Lambda event it is going to be added here. They are going to be replaced here at this place, and then we can able to add the button which are placed to the first row and 0 row and column 1, and we are going to be attached one of the list box. That list box will be placed into the first row and the 0 column, and this can span up to the 2 column. Span up to the 2 column, and that can be sticky. It can move only the east and west. So their movement we can restrict little bit. You can see here. You can see what is happening here. This is going, okay, where it is not coming. You can see here. It can go to all. It is going all direction, but your entry is not moving accordingly. Okay. So, but here this entry is going to be going toward the north and south, east and west. It is going, moving there, and your this whatever this entry box is given, that is not moving. It will remain at the same place. It is not going. So that way you can able to make that it should be aligned to each of the place. Okay. And now suppose we want to make this further column and row configuration to be happen appropriately, so that we can associate this the main window are going to be made as the column 0, and row 0 and weight should be given 1, row 1 weight should be 1, and adding one of the frame which has been north, south, east, they are going to keep on moving, and entry form will be only east and west, not north and south. They are going to make it grow, and we are adding another frame to this one. Instead of 2, we are add 1. We are adding another frame. Another frame we are adding on the same main window, and making that to be aligned with the 0 row and first column, sticky to be north, south, east, and we are making this to be another form. Another form there we are making one more entry, and binding to that particular entity 2, the add to list functionality which we have been implemented. Okay, and accordingly the list box 2 has been created, and which are aligned to the row 1 column 2, and they can span up to the column can span up to the 2 span. And if I want to run this one, you can see we are observing here 2 empty box was came. Okay, it is came here. Now if I want to add here, it is taking there. It is not associated, so it is not working. Because with this I did not associated the functionality with the button 2. Because that entity is not taking place. Because here whatever I written, you can see I written that here entity dot get happened to the first entity, but that second has been given one of the entity, second box was given entity 2. This entity 2 entity need to be associated with the list box 2. So that we are required to be update and the module add list, where we have to use the entity 2 dot get, and if into dot get have text, they should be inserted into the list box list 2 using the same parameter which we discussed. And if you are going to be make these changes, I am going to be run this one. You can observe we are getting here the outcome again. You can observe here the outcome is coming here. Now you can see we can add this functionality is not added here, but properly if you want to make it that functionality we are required to associate here. It is add to list is given. Now we have the add list. Okay, so this is going to become as a add list. Add list is not defined. Add underscore list. It is a capital L. So we can make it capital L. Then we can check. Now you can see. Now we can make here to be entered. Now it is adding. Second, it is adding. Okay, again, now here one thing you can do. After adding this one, it is deleted, right? This is going to made as a empty. Here it is not happening. Okay, we have to delete that one. Okay. Why it is happening? Because this delete we did not added here. You can see here carefully in this code. Okay. Here we have been added delete 0 ttk adding. Okay. So appropriate parameter attribute we are required to add. Okay. And second thing that we can also see that these frames need to be associated at the proper position. So what we did for the frame 1, it was put at the 0 and 0 column, 0 row 0 column. Here the frame 2 was associated at the first row but the second column going to be aligned to the right. Okay. So accordingly we have to see where we want to make this to be aligned. Okay. Now here you can see we are adding various kind of widgets, which you can see here. This is another widget which are this is you can see. It is coming to be for this is talking about the which label. Label 1 2 and this is row column row 0 column 1. Okay. So these row and column are going to be associated and decided based on the widgets which are going to place. With respect to that, it is going to be decided where this position should be there. You can see here. Okay. This is the way how this row column is coming. If more widgets are there, labels are there, because they are going to align accordingly that way. So this will be known as the first row. This is the second column. This is known as the first row and second column like the same way. Okay. So now this you can see we can create one of the function we created here. Let us take what we are doing. We are creating one of the window. Okay, where we are adding one of the function int value starting from the 0. We are increasing this counter count dot set. Make this count dot get which you are getting to be implemented by 1, and then with the label we are configuring that text should be count dot get. Whenever we are making that click to be, we are getting one of the count dot get which are going to make this to be implemented. And we have made one of the label, and this label has been given some associated with the main window. Text should be 0 entered, and we are making some kind of font to be chosen. So font is also one of the attributes associated with the this particular label, and then we are using one of the label pack to making it that where this label are going to be associated. So in that this was going to be labeled and going to be packed appropriately at the appropriate position, and we are attaching with the button some of the text label as a increase, and command we are giving the increase, executing the increase which are given here as a definition, and button we are going to be packed associating automatically without giving any kind of packing space. Now you can see it is associated, and here if you want we can keep on this is increasing. Okay. So similar way this functionality you can use to create it. Okay, whatever you want to be used for your application. Now this is another example. You can see we have been created one of the various forms which are containing some of the text label are here. You can see different kind of labels are there, having the entry and have the different buttons are there. Okay, different labels are there. So these are basically known as the different labels and buttons. Labels are there, some of the entry are there, and some various attributes are there. Now you can see labels we are putting at the place where you want to make. You can use the place X to be 30, Y to be 30. That is also one option where I can configure the places. Okay, from left to right, 30, 30. Okay, that we can use. And for the entry which we are putting at the 80 and 50. Okay, 30 to 50 this will be the label, and then from 80 to onward it will be the your entry which are coming there. So that way you can see here the positioning where this label should be, where this entry should be. That we can decide it. Okay, and accordingly they are going to be made. Many things we can also create here. Now you can see. So this is just to show you that what are the different. Say this is one of the star progress we can make. Look here. This is showing the progress bar, which is required in many applications are there. Okay, that can be happening. So this for that purpose, what we did, we are using one of the progress bar we are creating. It is available widget progress bar. Associating with the root, orientation should be horizontal, length and mode we can able to take that one, and this progress should be packed and making at the place 20. This is some of the position which we have to make it. Now this will be placed at some position. Now you can see it is happening. So we made that my progress should be where it should be placed and where the button should be placed. In case of button, we given the padding, so with respect to the top to bottom, this space are going to be created. Okay. And now this will be associated with some kind of progress to be started using the progress dot start. This functionality are going to be start that one, and this code was written to how these are going to keep on implemented. That I will share with you, and you can able to just go through this functionality. Okay. And similarly, we can able to create many different widgets. Okay, click here, they are going to be changed it. Okay, so this much all about. Now this is another functionality you can see where we are trying to create a tree view, which is one kind of tabular or hierarchical fashion of displaying the item. Okay, here you can see this has been used it to be. Whatever the entries we have here data, that data are going to be shown here into the row and column. Okay, you can see here name, age, salary, which are coming there, and that will be taken as a data. This data is taken as a list, and then we are reading this data and going to associate and keep in the appropriate heading. This tree have the heading name, age, salary, and there they are going to display. Okay. So this much about the today's session, where I just trying to show you that what are the different functionality which are available through which we can able to make our GUI to be designed. So we just given a hint that this our Python have the rich library, even though we can develop the GUI. So wherever you are required to develop any GUI based application, you should refer this library, this package, and going to be developed accordingly. Okay. So these widgets have the different. We can make some kind of this kind of option bullet. This we can able to make a check kind of button. We can create this kind of text box. We can create some kind of radio button. So various possibilities which are available with this particular technical library. Okay. This is some different kind of widget we can able to put here. That I will share with you. So this much for today's session, and I will share this Jupyter notebook. You can able to just go through and just try to see how helpful this package can be for your different application development, which is requires some kind of device. Okay, if you have any query, you can ask. Otherwise, I am going to be close the session, today's session. And tomorrow we are going to be continuing this session where we are going to discuss about the machine learning, neural network, and deep learning. That is one of the important sessions going to be happen tomorrow with the live demo, which you can use in various projects or maybe for various research purpose, where this Python intensive library was going to be used intensively. So good night to all of you and see you tomorrow session. Thank you.